yanked. Hi, Brett. I hope you can hear me.
Hi, G. How's it going?
Good. Having some problems with microphone. Zoom is like doing some magic as usual.
Yeah, it seems like every time I go to join a Zoom call, my Zoom wants to update itself.
Yeah.
So I got permission from my legal department to do a presentation on our pipeline at SAS and how we build stuff and how we do security and how we do CI/CD and events. So I know that the SIG events guys are interested in my event-driven stuff. What do you figure? Is there anything we'd be interested in this SIG that'd be like an end-to-end view, maybe, or
Yeah.
You know, because like the pipeline's really big and really complicated, and it'll give you an idea of what a pain in the neck it is to do CI/CD at scale.
I think that makes a lot of sense. Like if like events topics could be presented there, the security aspects could be presented here. Like it may increase your work, but you can repurpose some of those slides perhaps. So I will ping you on Slack, and then we could set a date and then put it on the agenda based on when you are available.
Yeah, I'm gonna yeah, I can't promise you. I mean, I've got a lot of stuff at work on my plate, but I'm gonna try. Well, I doubt I'll get to it before I go on vacation, so it'll be probably the end of close to the end of September, because I'm gonna be in Portugal. I'll be in Portugal for 2 weeks coming up. So
yeah, that works fine, I think. Yeah, end of September we should have a meeting. Let me check. Yes, like 22nd of September or in October. Like we can discuss that on Slack.
Okay,
and
cool.
See what works for you.
Thank
okay,
you.
I see most of people joined, so let me put the link to the chat and share my screen. And I hope you can see my screen and HackMD document. As usual, if you could record your participation in the document, that would be great. And today on our agenda, we have an action item from our previous meeting on David. Let me check if David joined. David not here yet. I will ping him on Slack. And then the next topic is supply chain security journey for Jenkins X now and beyond. And we will have a presentation from Osama. And the other topic, like Osama will have first half of the meeting, and then we'll have a conversation around supply chain maturity model led by David Bandori. So I still don't see David on the call, but we can perhaps start with the presentation, and when David arrives, we can ask status of his action item as well. So Osama, I stop sharing, and then please feel free to start your presentation.
Okay. Can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay, that's good. So, hello everyone, and good morning. I am Osama Magdi, a GSOC contributor with Jenkins X. Today we are going to talk about Jenkins X, what is how it's a promising CI/CD solution, and about our journey towards supply chain security, what we did for now and what we are going to do later, and how it's going to be very useful for our users. So our agenda for today is we talk about what Jenkins X, a simple introduction about its features, and how it's a promising CI/CD solution. What is the goal of supply chain security in JinxX? What is and how we use it? We use SBOMs. We are going to talk about this later, and its use in supply chain security. We then talk about SBOM different standards and formats and generation tools. And at the end, we talk about our approach to generate SBOMs and the future work we aim to. So, okay. First of all, if you have any question, please ping me anytime. I can see chat because of the share screen. So feel free to raise your hand or just open the mic and say your questions. Okay, so what's JinxX? JinxX is an all-in-one CI/CD solution built for Kubernetes. We are a cloud-native solution that aims to provide our users with the ability to build CI/CD systems in an easy way or a robust way that runs natively inside your Kubernetes cluster. With JinxX, you don't need to manage an external server to manage the CI/CD system for you. It also runs in the Kubernetes cluster itself. It has its own CRDs that talks to the API server and starts executing its pipeline jobs you created for it. We are built above, we leverage Cyclone pipelines, which is another cloud-native CI/CD orchestration tool. But JinxX aims to extend the reliability and ease of use. With JinxX, we enable our users to develop CI/CD solutions without the need to have a separate DevOps team. We allow non-specialized people to develop CI/CD in a secure way. This also includes a set of different features like multi-cluster GitOps and secret management and ChatOps. With multi-cluster GitOps, we allow Git to be the single source of truth for all your clusters that managed by JinxX. Secret management and ChatOps, which is a very good feature of JinxX that allows for triggering events like pipelines or testing pull requests through typing certain commands in the pull request chat. And all of this is integrated natively in the Kubernetes cluster you use. In short, you focus on writing the great code, and we focus on building it for you. Supply chain security with JinxX, as we are an all-in-one solution and we aim to be an end-to-end solution as well, we realize that importance of supply chain security in the current era. And also, we aim to provide it out of the box for our users. So not only to secure JinxX artifacts, but also make it an applicable step in your pipeline developed using JinxX. The current agenda for the project is including SBOM generation. SBOM is short for software bill of materials, which is a great way for detecting vulnerabilities and protecting against outdated software that may include malwares. Also, it's useful for license compliance for more than one purpose. The other type of integration we aim to use is integration with Tecton chains. Tecton chains is another solution from Tecton that aims to allow for cryptographically signed artifacts and storing them in a more convenient way. The current stable finished state of JinxX is SBOM generation support. We reach the stage that you can generate SBOMs and store them next to your artifacts. And also we can use tools like Gripe to detect our vulnerabilities. This will be talking next. Okay, so a quick introduction. What's SBOM? It's short for software bill of materials, which is a formally structured list of components used to identify the certain components built this software. It can detect the packages it used, the third parties, and maybe files. And it has a lot of different features like metadata about creations of the document and who created it, the git commits, the SHA. All of this is included inside a formally structured list that aims to be machine readable, so it can have automated checks about it. And this is what we are going to have. It's also useful in ensuring the authenticity of the people who created the document or the organization who created the artifact. So with SBOMs, you can make sure which one created the software used. Is it already an authentic software or it's tampered with other hackers? Okay. One of the investigations we made was talking about SBOM formats, which has been like 3 different formats: Spdx, which is short for Software Package Data Exchange, and Cyclone DX, and SWD tags, SWID tags. All of this is talked about this JinxX blog post. We will share with you the slides after that, and you can refer to the blog post on JinxX website. But for the current use case of JinxX, we settled down to use Software Package Data Exchange. It's adopted by the Linux Foundation as an industry standard. It has some metadata. The SPDX version 2.2 specifications states that it should include at least the document creation information, which is a metadata about the build date, the build author, and the commit of the last build. And all the fields following it is optional. You may see generation tools that include those fields and include the others that doesn't exist. Maybe one of the essential fields that must be included in all of tools, it's the package information, which means that with every package that's used inside the system you are building, it should have a metadata about the creation and the license and the version and a git commit SHA maybe for the last build. SPDX has improved continuously to meet the NTIA requirements and specifications till the latest SPDX version 2.2 we spoke about. It supports also different file formats like JSON, YAML, and XML. And there's you can view like different examples from here. We can show you this maybe now. This is different examples of SPDX that may be useful to see. This is maybe a JSON file. This is the metadata we spoke about, the document creation platform. And the packages include this package with SPDX ID, the download creation, and all these fields. So
I can't see any link. It's still the slides. So
okay. Yes, because I am sharing only the. Sorry, can you see this? Can you see this now?
Yes.
yes.
Yes. Okay. So this is the fields we were talking about in SPDX specifications. It includes the metadata about the document itself and the software is created. And after this, there is a packages object, which includes an array of all packages or a list of all packages. It includes a package name and then SPDX ID for this, the download creation, and files analyzed. Okay, so anyone have questions for now? Okay, so we can start. Another investigation that we made is talking about SBOM generation tools. What are the tools used to generate these SBOMs? So SBOMs are aimed to include all packages. So if it's a big project like JinxX, it may contain like hundreds or thousands of lines of code or of documents. So it has to be generated automatically inside your CI/CD system. So we we searched for several open source tools to generate SBOMs. The list of all tools we investigated is written inside this other blog post by JinxX, and we settled down on using these 3 tools. First of all, Anchor Sift. Sift is a CLI tool developed by Anchor to generate SBOMs from different artifacts. It can generate SBOMs from Docker images, file systems, and also the pipelines. It supports creating SBOMs in Spdx or Cyclone DX and JSON format. We mentioned earlier that for Jenkins, we settled on using Spdx, so Sift was a very good choice for us. After that, we decided to use Oras. If you created an SBOM for container images, you also need to store it inside the same artifact repository you are using. And this is not possible in the usual case because they are documents, not Docker images. And a hack for this will be like to build a Docker image and store it inside and store the SBOM inside it. But with Oras is a CNCF sandbox project. It aims to allow for storing different file formats as an OCI artifacts. It supports storing those documents or any non-binary file in the final layer of an OCI image. And it's also a good use case for our SBOMs, which can be generated and stored in the same place we are releasing the Docker images. So when we create a Docker image, we create the SBOM for it and store it in another image, OCI image with Oras, and we push them together. The last tool we use for SBOMs is Gripe. Gripe is another tool developed by Anchor, and it's used for vulnerability detection from SBOMs. So how we are going to use SBOMs? You generate this, and it lists all the packages you use, but how you can detect the vulnerabilities and how you can use this in supply chain security. This is done by Gripe. It scans the vulnerabilities from SBOMs, container images, and other file systems. Okay, so how we actually do this? What is the approach doing this? I just want to open the share screen so it can view all the links. Okay, so Jenkins has a centralized repository, which is the pipeline catalog that include steps in their pipeline. So if you use this now, this is Jenkins GX3 pipeline catalog. In this pipeline catalog, we include tasks that may be useful to our users to include in their pipeline system. So if we go first to supply chain security folder, we have this task.yaml. With this task.yaml, we have two steps, maybe download Sift. If you use this step inside your CI/CD pipeline built with Jenkins, you can easily install it locally in your pipeline running pod or container. It's basically running Alpine image and downloading Sift on it. Okay. After that, we added another step. We added another step to install Gripe or to generate the SBOM documents from Sift, and we use Oras to push it locally, to push it to the container registry you are using. On the user side, you can reference these documents like here. So how our users are going to use this step using GX3 pipeline catalog. We are referring to their pipeline in .lighthouse Jenkins. This is release.yaml, which is a pipeline runs when a release is triggered. So you go inside the step. This is the steps field, a tasks, then steps. With you go further, you check image to use Jenkins GX3 pipeline catalog, and you refer to the path of this tasks/supply chain security, and then refer to the name of the task itself, download Sift. With this, you can download Sift to your image, to your pipeline, and upload binaries is using, for Jenkins, upload binaries is using GoReleaser. So another thing we want to talk about, for our own SBOM generation, we are using Go releaser, which is this Go releaser.yaml, and here we specify SBOMs to generate from archive artifacts. So with Go releaser, it's by default supporting generating SBOMs, but it also requires Ceph to be installed. So if you can SBOMs, yes, this way from Go releaser, it specifies that it uses Ceph as a default, and you only need to define the artifact type you want to generate SBOMs from. After this, I mentioned we added another step to the pipeline catalog to use ORAS, which enables us to push the SBOMs created with this, create SBOMs to the container registry. So if you use this, you can push it directly to the container registry you are using. At the end, we are using Gripe to scan the generated SBOMs detected to detect vulnerable dependencies. This is still a work in progress because we still didn't create a catalog task for it, but it's on its way. So an example for this will be like, this is an SBOM example generated for JinxX, and it's using Spdx version 2. This is generated using Ceph Anchor. Here it appears in the creators, which is tools, and it lists some packages inside here. This is the cloud.google.com/go, and it references external reference that is installed by package manager, and this is the reference locator and the reference type. If you want to know more about the Spdx specifications, we also attach the link for this in Spdx version 2.2. Okay, and if you go back to the SBOM generated by JinxX, refer to this link to view the full SBOM, and it appears here. It will download this document for you. See, this is a very big document that cannot be human readable. It has to be machine readable to generate automated checks, which is also detected by Gripe. Okay, here in scanning SBOMs, we use Gripe. This is an example of commands to check the SBOMs from JinxX. If we passed it to Gripe, it will omit to you the vulnerable packages that's detected with the severity and the installed version and where it's fixed. But note, this is just a note that this is an issue with Gripe itself, because it was mentioning a wrong version. We were not using this vulnerable proto path Go client. So JinxX doesn't have vulnerable stream now. Apart from Gripe, JinxX is using Dependabot to detect vulnerabilities in its dependency. So this is another layer of security added to JinxX to enable more vulnerabilities detection. Future work up to this stage is create a pipeline catalog task to scan SBOMs with Gripe, generate SBOMs for Docker images and upload them using ORAS. For now, also JinxX is in Salsa level 1, and we hope to achieve Salsa level 2 by the end of this year. Maybe through Tecton chains integration, it will enable us to reach Salsa level 2. The last thing we aim to do for now is a prototype implementation of the CNCF secure software factory using JinxX. With this prototype implementation, we enable our users to check if they are really Salsa ready or they are able to set up JinxX with fast. And that's it for now. We are ready to hear your questions and comments. Okay, does anyone have questions?
So why
Oh,
did you
yeah.
pick SPDX over Cyclone DX format?
Sorry, you mean why we preferred SPDX?
Yeah, why SPDX over Cyclone DX? Any particular reason?
It's actually because it's more verbose for us, and it includes the comparison is made in the blog post, but in a short answer, it's more verbose for us and more suitable for our use case because the package information and file information is more acceptable to gripe and great for vulnerable detections.
Okay.
So like the reason we did that was because SIFT by default creates like SBOM in like the SPDX like JSON
Yes.
like format. So since we are very new to this, we wanted to like stick to like the defaults, and then we can see, okay, so if we want to go to say Cyclone like DX in the future, we can also do that. But that's the reason. So
Cool. So I'm currently, while you're talking, I'm currently working on glue code to get SBOMs out of our black duck scans. So I appreciate what you guys have gone through and done already. It's pretty awesome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, any other question or comment for Osama? Okay, and thanks a lot, Osama, for the presentation and good work.
Thank you.
So we will have another presentation and maybe demo once you conclude your work, yeah?
Yes, we aim to maybe after we are finished with the future work, we may get back to you with another presentation about how we integrated with Spectrum chains.
Okay, yeah, that would be cool. Thanks a lot,
Okay, thank you.
Osama. So I see
I can
David
appreciate
here.
it.
Yeah. So David, before we start with the supply chain maturity model discussion, you had an AP action item from last meeting. I think you already responded to that action item on Slack, if I'm not mistaken. So we can close that. You are muted.
I think I was asked if I could share more detail. Right. I was asked if I could share more details around what we do internally at Google compared to Salsa. And I looked into that internally. I can't share more details. I can't share the schema. What I can say is that what you're seeing in Salsa is very, very much aligned with what we do internally at Google, albeit with a different schema.
Okay. Thanks, David. So please feel free to kick off the discussion around supply chain maturity model.
Sure. So to be clear, this is intended to be a discussion and conversation. This is not a presentation. I don't have anything prepared. There is a link in the agenda back to a Slack message that kind of brought this onto the agenda, as well as an OSS project that I think is related. So we, I think broadly speaking, we're seeing developing industry alignment around Salsa as a standard for supply chain provenance. And I thought it would be good for this SIG to kick off a conversation around supply chain maturity. So Salsa covers, the inputs that go into generating your artifacts. There's also significant conversation around things like vulnerabilities that are in those artifacts and tracing those sorts of things with SBOMs. But there are other aspects of your supply chain that are not today captured by Salsa. As an example of this, what's your test coverage? Do you have a code coverage standard that no artifact goes to production without a code coverage of X%, as an example? Or other kinds of gates that may need to be passed. Does your supply chain include red-green testing? Do you have a canary analysis service that looks at a new canary? Does it provide automatic rollback if there are new problems that surface in production as part of your automated rollout? Or is manual intervention required? There are all sorts of maturity levels. And I would like to propose that just as we have an industry effort around aligning on SALSA, we have an industry effort to align on supply chain maturity more broadly. Just for fun, that is of course going to be called the Cold Health Project Score, which abbreviates as CHIPS, so that we will have CHIPS and SALSA. And having said that, I'm sure this proposal will get significant uptick in endorsement and excitement from everyone in the room. By way of prior art, I will lean on some of my internal Google experience. You've heard me before talk about the Google SWE book, where we talk about some of this. We have all sorts of project health metrics that we watch that help us gauge this and gauge the health and maturity of a project. And certainly there are aspects of that Google would bring to this conversation if people are interested in this. So that's kind of my introduction. I'm interested in hearing from others, getting a sense of level of interest. Is this something we want to take on in this working group and simply continue conversations here? Possibly we want to have a separate working group for this. I want to hear from others. And I see Parth, if I'm correctly pronouncing your name, you have a hand up, so please take the floor.
Sure. So I think you bring up a great point. I think that SALSA does not cover everything. And so I think one of the things that we are actually looking at in the FRESCAR project is basically having runtime attestations also created. So for example, as the build is getting built out, right, do you know exactly what the process is, what the syscalls are getting run as the actual artifact is getting run, right? So is it reaching out to the internet? Do you expect it to reach out to the internet, right? So capturing that kind of information kind of gives you that you can go creating a separate attestation that's separate from SALSA. You have a SALSA attestation at the same time you have like a runtime attestation getting generated that you can go back to and refer. Maybe you can create policies based off that newly generated attestation. So that's the other thing we're looking into, is having that visibility at the runtime for the build, right? So that you can know if it's reaching out to the internet, if it's reaching out to malware.com for whatever reason, right? You don't expect that to happen, then you have a record of that happening and you can go trace it back.
Sorry, struggling with my mute there. Yes, these are the kinds of metrics that we're thinking about that go beyond just the supply chain and from the supply chain all the way through to operations.
Yeah, I think looking into like eBPF, utilizing eBPF to capture those kind of logs, and creating a predicate that, like a new type of predicate aside from SALSA that people can standardize and people can use and start capturing that kind of information also.
Listening to this, the examples that you gave, David, I would call policies. That's what I've been calling them internally, around like what it means to be production ready. And Parth, the thing that you mentioned feels like an accessory metric to prove your SALSA level. And so there's like an interesting hierarchy of the validate that you really didn't contact the internet feels underneath the SALSA, please don't contact the internet, to be SALSA 4. And then above that, you have like overarching policies of like, you have to have alarms set up and you have to deploy progressively and whatever. For my world, it's are you SOX compliant? Things like that.
Yeah, Justin, at Google, depending on the project involved, these may or may not be policies. We start with them as measures and metrics. And so we have, so you can imagine that one project might be satisfied with a project health score of 2, whereas some other project might need to be at 5 or 7 or whatever it is. And we've sort of got a whole lot of different metrics, and different projects decide which metrics are relevant to them and thereby decide which policies they want to see enforced.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense.
Just as, by the way, analogously, I can decide that salsa level 2 is all I need for the following reasons, and you might decide you need salsa level 4.
And I agree with what you were saying, Justin. Like, it is definitely like it's an indicator of how far you are with on the salsa scale, right? And I think it's one of those things that gives you more information, that gives you you can make better informed decisions. Like, hey, yes, I am at salsa level 4 because my runtime attestation is also proving that that I am at that level.
Yep. Yeah, we're in the process now of defining some of those, what I would call policies. We probably need a name for what these actually are called. What was your word, David?
CHIPS, Code Health Project Score, but that's really because we want chips and salsa, or salsa and chips, depending on your point of view.
Yep. So we have a handful of these chips that are informed by salsa, but also like our regulatory environment we exist in. And there seems like a natural play between those two, where you're like, would you like to add in the I have to be SOX compliant pile of
Absolutely.
chips?
We do this kind of thing in some of our Google Cloud products. Absolutely. So as a simple example of that, can any single engineer access user data in this application, or does user data require multiple approvals in order to gain access? Just like you would have in salsa, does a PR require approval, require multiple approvals, same sorts of measures? What are the gates that were passed as part of production rollout? So, and Keith, yes, that's what that's definitely on my mind here is establishing a common framework, just as salsa has established a common framework for us.
Yeah.
Sounds like a great
So
idea.
let me ask a critical question here, which is this something that we want to have as sort of, an ongoing item that we develop in this forum, or do we want to split off a separate working group of people interested in this topic, the same way salsa worked independently to establish, their standards and the salsa ladder and everything else? I'm not proposing that as a closed group, to be clear. I'm proposing that as an open group. I'm just asking, is there enough interest to establish that as a forum? And if so, is the forum here or elsewhere?
Yeah, an example from past experiences, this was how the events discussions started like a few years ago under special interest group interoperability. Few people who were interested to work on events in a more focused manner created a work stream under the special interest group interoperability. So that is an option which we have a previous experience with that. So if you want, David, and if others are interested, you could, form a work stream under supply chain SIG. Then you work with these things, and over time, it could, turn into its own project or whatever, like how CD events was created. So you just, lead the topic, and then now we help you get going.
Okay, so I think what I'm going to do for now is just put in the agenda a call to action. Anyone who's interested can contact me on Slack, and we'll look to sort of get a first meeting of interested parties and figure out how we want to proceed, or for that matter, if we want to proceed, frankly.
Yeah, we have some like Justin, Ankit, and Part, and Brett. So you have 4 contributors already signed up. Okay, maybe we should capture this in our document. So I can type, please ping David on Slack to get involved in the further discussions. Yeah, someone is typing already. Maybe you are typing, David. So
I'm about 10 seconds ahead of you.
good. Okay. Any other comments, questions about this topic? It's good that we have a way forward to continue the discussion. So I like the name as well, chips. Okay. So then any other topic anyone wants? Yeah.
Actually, critical item, I just realized I failed to disclose. The chip's name came from Billy Lynch. It wasn't mine. That's critical. I can't take credit for the cleverness of that.
Maybe you can, add a note there to give the credit. Yeah.
I will do that before someone gives me credit. You're right. I don't want to violate his trademark there.
Okay. So we have some more minutes if anyone wants to bring up a topic out of, while you were hearing these discussions, Jenkins X presentation, chips discussion, please just, we have some more time to have the topic discussed.
I have a maybe more tactical question, which is, I'm the author of an open source library and am interested in facilitating a more supply chain friendly open source ecosystem. And so I know that in a containerized world, you can upload additional metadata, which is like your SBOM, onto the container artifact itself. In a world where we distribute things like jars, what's the common way that people include provenance and SBOMs and whatnot?
So which we reached for this investigation, that SBOMs is not always considered as a metadata. It's just a whole new document. Maybe I don't know if it's actually can be uploaded with the image layer as a separate document. But if it's metadata, it can be stored in the same image, but it's not specifically a metadata. It's just a whole separate document that we want to be uploaded in the same artifact repository. Okay, so it's not just a metadata. It can be considered as a JSON file. Actually, Spdx we generate is Spdx JSON format. So we checked and we searched for open source tools. This is actually a tool used by Microsoft, Auras, which is we spoke about earlier, a CNCF sandbox project. So it was, and we tried it with another documents, and it worked so well for us. So this is why we didn't store it in a metadata format, because it's a separate document, and also you can you want to upload like different formats of the same SBOM. How you can do this as a metadata. If we decided to generate the Spdx and Cyclone GX and SWIT tag, I think storing them as a metadata may be a blocker for us. I don't know if this has another workaround or another solution, but this is the solution we feel more convenient for our use case.
Thanks. David?
In Tecton chains, you can choose your storage medium. So there are different options for storing in a database, for storing in using the Grapheus open source library. So for example, on Google Cloud Platform, that enables you to store in something called artifact analysis. You can also store alongside the artifact for Docker containers in OCI bundles. You can store the information in the Tecton cluster. Basically, there are a bunch of options there in chains, with the exception of OCI bundles to store alongside the artifact itself. Those are artifact agnostic. They're simply storage locations. The approach we're taking on Google Cloud Platform is that this information should all be centralized, and therefore it's in the artifact analysis API. One of the things to consider in this space is who has access to write to that storage or delete, which gets to issues of faking the information and or repudiating it.
Thanks.
Okay. Any other questions or ideas anyone wants to share? Okay, I take this as no. So before we end our meeting today, as you know, we meet every second and fourth Thursdays. Our next week meeting will happen on August 8th, and I see Hart, you added the Fishka presentation to our presentation backlog. So we will have that presentation from you and demo perhaps part if things stay as is. So please, everyone, join us on September 8th for that presentation and demo as well, and reach out to David if you want to get involved in this chips work as well. Thanks everyone for joining today, and we see each other in 2 weeks. Have a nice rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. See you.
Right.